we're Chris and Sandra. In 2022, we bought a boat we named Thataway. On a foggy May morning, we said goodbye to Port Dover and headed down Lake Erie through the Welland Canal and on to Lake Ontario. We had a summer of fun boat projects and explored Lake Ontario and the famous Canadian Heritage Canal System, the Trent Severn Waterway. We met some great people and saw amazing sights in beautiful Ontario. We've got plans to overhaul the interior of Thataway in the spring, so join two not-so-young kids as we dive headfirst into our 2023 adventure.
We're about halfway from the Bustard Islands to Killarney. The windy app, I would say it's pretty true today, maybe just a little bit underestimated. We're about halfway through. We're getting the wind on the beam a little bit, but it's not heavy wind, and the waves are on the beam, and it's not big waves, about a foot and a half maybe right now. There's a bit of surge that looks like it's coming from the south. I'm not sure if that helps counteract the waves coming or just makes it like a washing tub. I don't know enough about it. I suppose it's time to learn. I've been trying to do some work while we're underway to see if that is possible. And it did work for a little while. I lost a bit of a signal crossing, but we seem to have regained it. I did a bit of reading. Chris has got everything on autopilot here because it's such a straight arrow here. What's been your experience this morning? Boring?
Pretty calm. I think it's better than the last two crossings we've done.
Killarney Mountain Lodge is a big draw for visitors. Boaters staying at its marina have free use of all facilities, so it's a favorite among loopers. The marina was full when we headed in, so we stayed at the sister marina, the Sportsman Inn, just minutes away. There's a cute little cafe called Curds and Whey right by the marina so that you can get your morning coffee, latte, or cappuccino. We ended up skirting the edges of the resort and went where the path took us. Sometimes you get to see things you never would by hanging out behind everything. There are some older parts to the lodge with low-key motel-style rooms. There's a popular pool situated between accommodations and the Carousel restaurant, and both would become very busy as the day wore on. A covered path led from the older part of the resort up to the new buildings of the lodge. As we turned the corner, the log bridge was an unexpected but impressive feature that heralded the imposing building that is the ranch restaurant. Sophisticated and casual, the lodge makes an effort to create relaxed eating areas for its guests. And nothing much can beat this early morning view. You can't stay in Killarney without sampling fish and chips at Herbert's Fisheries. The fish might have been caught that very morning. At the Sportsman Inn, you can sit at Big Willie's bait shop for fresh oysters and drinks just off the docks. The next day, when we were washing the boat, this happened. It's an 82-foot Pershing made in Italy. This is a many times multi-million-dollar boat, and from what I can tell, the owner takes it around Lake Michigan, the North Channel, and Lake Huron. I had a chance to speak to the fuel attendant about the boat. The fuel tank holds 5,500 liters, and that day they were putting 2,000 in. The boat's top speed is close to 50 knots per hour, and it took almost 2 hours to pump those 2,000 liters. It takes as long to fuel it as it does to burn the fuel. A fellow in a dinghy had pulled up to the fuel dock and ran up one side and down the other of one of the crew. Apparently this Pershing threw up a 4-foot wake when passing a group of kayakers, and this fellow himself in his dinghy. Some days you just need the forest.
So I think we've gone rogue on the trail here, but there's the lighthouse. We just have to keep water to our right. Because?
Because it's in an authorization zone.
Oh, you're not allowed. Oh, the airport's close by.
Yeah, but I wonder if that'll clear by the time we get over there.
Might be nice to do it over by the lighthouse, but let's see what happens. That's pretty sophisticated, eh? That it can read a
Well, it's
signal.
just basing it on GPS, right?
Right. Bailout to road or easy lighthouse walk. Lighthouse via shoreline. He knows me too well. Didn't even ask. Huh?
Is this the way you wanted to go?
Yes, but you didn't even ask. It's great. Shoreline it is. These aren't really for stern tying, are they? Like anchoring? That seems like an inhospitable anchorage. I'll have to look at Navionics and see if it's a designated one. Might be. And the actual reward. So there's the lighthouse we just came from, and we're going all the way back here.
As we were returning to the marina from our hike, this amphibious airplane was getting ready to take off. When we started on our hike, we noticed it sitting on the runway. Obviously, the owners had come into town for lunch. At first, we weren't quite sure what he was doing. He seemed to be heading down the channel to the other side of town. But after he circled around a little bit, we finally figured out that he was waiting for traffic to clear so he could head east towards Georgian Bay. It took a little bit, but then Chris noticed that he pulled his hatch down, and then after that he quickly got up to speed and took off. It seemed to take quite a while for him to get airborne, but eventually he did.
And there's my darn fingers, but sometimes I just like to see what's going on with my own eyes and I forget to look at what's in the viewfinder.
marina put us in a slip that was just a little bit too small for our boat. And behind us was a dock at a perpendicular angle. We had perfect conditions for easing our way out. The water was very flat and calm, and Chris took his time. We had one of our neighbors hold on to a bow line just to make sure that if we ran into trouble, he could give it a little pull. It went perfectly. Chris came within 6 inches of the dock behind us, but that's all the room we actually had. And once he cleared that, he turned the boat and eased it out of the actual entrance of the marina.
Yeah.
I just kind of, just a little tension, nothing hard at all. I let him do his thing, but I didn't. That line is still a little.
I'll just put it in now. Thank you very much.
My busiest times on the boat are right after we cast lines and get out of the marina. I spend some time tidying up the lines, and if we transferred some from one side to another, I move them back. I pull in the fenders, especially if we know we're going to be cruising for a couple of hours, and make sure they're all in the right spot. I go around and I look for any tripping hazards, and if it's a rough water at the time that I'm doing all this work, I make sure I'm wearing my life jacket. I love cruising when the conditions are like this, but I imagine it's a little bit boring.
This is pretty nice.
Yeah.
I have no problems with this.
So we're between Killarney and Little Current, and we're going to head to Clapperton Island today and anchor there for the night. We're thinking we're going to try to get to the border in the next couple of days, maybe at most a week, but hopefully the next couple of days, and regroup before we cross. We still have to make sure we've got all our documents in order and we know what we're doing. And take our time getting down Lake Michigan. Mostly because we want to be able to not feel the pressure to get off the lake in September. We'd rather do it in August. And by getting there and having 3 to 4 weeks to do it means that if we have to stay somewhere for 4 or 5 days, that we don't feel the pressure of that.
It's hard to believe this is the same body of water from 3 days ago, 4 days ago.
Yeah.
Very calm.
Very calm. It is more protected. That's the main land over there. Although you won't often see me at the helm, we're trying more and more to put me in the captain's seat so Chris can take a little break and then I can get a bit more used to piloting the boat. Granted, for a lot of the last little while, we've been in autopilot, which doesn't really count, but it's kind of fun to sit up there and watch the navionics and get honed up on all the skills with setting a course and paying attention to the hazards around you.
So if you want to do that, just do it really slowly because it gets quite shallow beyond the point. I mean, it almost looks like there's something beyond that, unless he's hanging a dinghy off the back or something.
That was close. This is much for my camera. I'm not going to film that.
I don't know about you, but I was very tired this afternoon.
Yeah,
I
so was
suspect
I.
it was all the hiking we did at Killarney,
Could have been.
and then a really late night and early morning getting going.
Yeah.
I feel a lot better now.
Now that we've got a feeling for battery and what things use, we're at 88% right now. It's nighttime, and I'm going to make some cookies in the oven, and we're going to see how we do with that, especially since tomorrow is supposed to be a rainy day. So here we go. And I want convection. We're going to go with 375. We're going to do 15 minutes. And I'm not preheating the oven because I think that's just unnecessary. I might have to extend the time a little bit. I think it called for 12 minutes, so I put it on for 15, and we'll see how it does. And we'll keep track of it up on the monitor as well. So it actually dropped to 87 right away, so I think we were pretty close to 87. And you see that it's drawing 1625 watts. There's nothing going in through solar. So I'm just going to watch this and see when it drops to 86 and how much time was on the oven when that happens. It dropped a percentage and the oven was on for 6 minutes. So we left Clapperton Island this morning, headed down the North Channel to Meldrum Bay. It's a bit choppy, not the worst we've been in, but there have been a couple big waves. We're debating whether to change our course just a tiny bit and go below an island just before Meldrum Bay, just to get a little bit of protection and turn away from getting these waves on the beam. It's pretty good right now, but we do have to turn down eventually, so we're hoping maybe if we scoot around an island we can have a bit better cruise for the last hour or so. Anyway, we had breakfast. We moved down below quite quickly just to be more comfortable. We've eaten. I've done a little bit of catch up on computer stuff. And yeah, we're hoping to get to the marina tonight, although we're not married to the marina. I'd like to cook some of our food and start processing some of the food that may or may not be allowed across the border. So all in all, fairly uneventful morning so far, and we should have a busy afternoon. We're under 2 hours to get to Meldrum, and this happened. Like, the waves disappeared. It's really, really calm, and I don't think it was supposed to do that.
They're out there. Like, we've come into a fairly sheltered, I don't know if it's because of the islands in front of us, but you can see it's more active out there.
So talk about autopilot and how it's changed our lives.
Well, it just makes life so much easier. I'm on autopilot almost all the time. It's not the best autopilot. It's old, but it can plot a straight course. So, like today, we had 18 miles on pretty much the same bearing. I just have to set it, and I can kind of sit around and watch what's going on everywhere else. It's a lot less stressful, particularly in waves.
Yeah, it kind of holds it where we're going instead of rocking around as much. Meldrum Bay is a port of entry for anyone returning from the States. It's a relatively small marina, but it does have hot showers. And we spent the afternoon cooking some of our food because I was worried about what was going to be allowed across the border, and I figured if a lot of this stuff was cooked, it would pass muster a little bit. Chris also took the opportunity to test the drone's features. The feature Track Me latches onto a person and then follows them. So we were testing that a little bit. He also did another one where it circled the boat. We were trying to work up to a point where we would feel comfortable being underway and having the drone follow behind us. We spent our last night in Canada anchored at Coburn Island. This is the last island before Drummond Island. And because we'd set up all the paperwork to cross the next day, we needed to hang out somewhere. It's a relatively small community with no real amenities, but it was nice and quiet, and it gave us time to finalize our plans to the US. We're up bright and early this morning, headed to Drummond Island, to customs. There's going to be some rough weather this afternoon, so we wanted to get a really early start. So as soon as we felt that we could see ahead of ourselves, we flipped on the running lights
and took off. The best weather is going to be this morning. Hopefully it'll be pretty much like this the whole way. Anyway, getting pretty excited. We'll see what they think of all of our food in our fridge. So it's a pretty good crossing from Drummond Island to Drummond Island. We're probably about a quarter of the way over, and conditions are what we expected them to be, and it's coming straight on the bow, so what little wave action there is definitely manageable. We should arrive around 10 a.m. and get ourselves through customs, and then hot shower, hopefully. Okay, we just crossed in apparently. See you, Canada. So this is what we were racing to avoid. We left at 6 this morning, got here about 10. Took a couple hours to get through customs, not because of customs, but because of technology. And we just got everything in hand. Customs was great, by the way. They were very helpful. We managed to get everything sorted out and there were no issues in the end. But look at that. When we came in, that was almost flat. Boats are just coming in as fast as they can. Just saw a big bolt of lightning and thunder, and now you can't even see that island across the bay. Wowzers! Welcome to the United States. Windy. This is what 27 knots looks like. So we're at Esther's at Drummond Island, and Chris couldn't finish his whole burrito. He had a burrito.
Yeah.
And I had chimichanga, and I couldn't finish that. So we have leftovers. It was a big meal. Really nice. Thanks for joining us this week as we make our way across the North Channel and into the United States. If you haven't already, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and leave your questions and comments. See you next time.